Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be getting back into kind of the primal core basic work, just really simple core work, building up off the floor, working posterior core, anterior core, side core, and working on being able to transition through them. But today we're going to kind of keep it simple, so it's more introduction to it. A lot of work on one of the big parts as far as building good core is being able to maintain a solid plank. So I want to work on pelvic mobility, specifically getting that pelvic scoop, because that scoop of the pelvis is where we're able to kind of lock in our core in order to make a good plank. So we'll kind of get a good focus on that. So let's get started. We're going to start on our back, making a nice big C shapes with our hands, placing the hands below the ribs. So I don't want to touch ribs, I want to just be right below the ribs and above the hip bone, that nice meaty section of the abdominal wall. I don't want to be pressing on any of the bone, I only want to be pressing on kind of the meat of our abdominals. Index fingers are going into the front abdominals. Thumbs are pressing into the low back, and the side palms pressing into the side of the body. On our inhale, we're breathing in through the nose, filling up that abdominal wall to press out against the hands. On our exhale, drawing navel all the way into the spine. With each exhale, let the hands cinch in a little bit tighter to give you more resistance. For that inhale to press out and away on, like we're blowing up a balloon through our abdominals, through that abdominal core. With each inhale, see if you can expand a little bit more. Can you draw a little bit more volume of breath down into that lower core region, getting that breath to expand out and away. A little bit deeper on the inhale, and on the exhale, draw that navel in like you're pressing your belly button into your spine and pressing your spine into the floor, and try to express as much of that breath as you possibly can. And then immediately filling up that balloon, expanding out and away. As you get a good number of breaths in, start to take a notice of how well does that balloon expand. Not just forward into the belly, but out through the sides and into the low back. I want to see if we can get that expansion to be even throughout. Especially notice if it's more difficult to breathe into one side versus the other. What's most common here is it will be more difficult to breathe into the one side body or into the low back on one side. And if you're feeling that, then put a little focus of your breath, that inhale, specifically into that area where it's not moving as well, to see if you can get it to move a little bit more. Then I want to keep a focus on that particular area as we get into the rest of our movements. Again, bringing in the focus of our breath specifically into the area where it doesn't move as well. Now we're going to slowly shift. We're going to get into our shin box. I'm in my left side shin box. Left palm is down, spiraling that elbow out and away, feeling that nice open lifted chest. Shoulder blades kind of packing back, reaching down to the floor so that we're staying nice and tall. We're going to come right back into our crocodile breath, but we're focusing on the side that the palm is down. So my left hand's down. I'm bringing that crocodile breath specifically into my left side body. Feel that breath, inhale, expanding out. Again, I want to feel it forward through the belly, out to the side, and into that low back. Exhale, we're drawing navel into spine. On our inhale, feel that breath in, draw down into that side as if it's fluid or weight, and it's going to just sink down. It even kind of naturally kind of draws your spine into a little bit of a C shape. On the exhale, as we draw navel in, our spine gets tall and lifts up towards the ceiling. Inhale, we bring that breath down, filling up that side body bowl. After 5 breaths, we're going to shift over to the other side. We're going to do the same thing. Rounded palm, spiral that elbow out and away as you round down through the palm and feeling that shoulder blade pack down and back, lifting the spine up tall, bringing our breath into that opposite side body. Filling that breath up. Notice how it kind of sinks the spine just a little bit. And then on the exhale, that navel draws up and in, lifting us up back towards the ceiling. And then on the inhale, drawing that breath down. Exhale, getting nice and tall. By focusing this breath one side and then the other, we're getting into that, we're kind of noticing how does that breath fill up on the right compared to filling up on the left? Is one side more difficult, more challenging, more tight and restricted? After 5 breaths, we're going to bring it back to the other side. We're going to do the same thing with our breath. We'll do 2 or 3 more breaths, filling in that side body. Again, comparing how does it feel on this side compared to the other side. Exhale, drawing that navel in. And as we're filling up that breath, and now I want to bring our focus to our backside hip. So I'm on my left side shin box. I want to focus on my right hip. As we inhale, filling up that side body breath, we're going to let our back hip reach down towards the floor. See if you can touch the floor. If you can't touch the floor, it's not a big deal. We're just actively reaching. And then on our exhale, as we draw that navel in, getting tall, roll that hip up and forward like you're trying to reach your hip bone forward. Hip comes off the floor and scoop into it. See if you feel some stretch to the front of the back hip. Inhale, let that hip sink to the floor. Exhale, rolling up and over, feeling that scoop. See if you can feel the stretch through the front of the hip. Inhale, fill up that side body the exact same way. Exhale, drawing navel into spine, getting tall spine. After about 5 breaths, we're going to transition across, do the same thing on the other side. Round the palm, spiral the elbow, packed shoulder. Inhale, we're going to start with our breath first. So inhale, filling up that side body. Exhale, navel to spine. Again, have that level of a self-assessment of how does this feel on this side. Is it tighter or is it more fluid? Does it move easier or does it move more challenged? On your next inhale, as you're filling up that side body, allow that back hip to drop down, reaching towards the floor. On the exhale, as you're drawing navel in, reaching that hip up and forward and lightly scooping its tailbone forward to see if you feel that stretch. As you let it drop, breathing into that side bowl, exhale, getting nice and tall, scooping the pelvis. As we're getting this hip mobility with our breath, we're already kind of bringing our awareness into how does the breath feel one side to the other. Now we can kind of notice how does the hip feel one side compared to the other. Is one hip tighter, especially that back hip? Does it have less mobility? Are you able to touch the floor with both? Where does one not go as far? After about 5, we can come back across to the other side. We're going to do the same, we're going to start with the same part, breathing in our breath as we drop that hip back. Exhale, drawing navel to spine as we scoop. And now we're going to add our reach into it. So as you exhale, drawing navel to spine, scooping the pelvis, still feeling this front stretch. Now we're going to reach away as if we're trying to touch somebody or reach off into the corner. Inhale, we're bringing it all the way back, allowing that back hip to sit. Exhale, scoop as we reach and rotate. With each reach, I'm seeing if I can pivot off this back knee, then reach and extend my fingers a little further. I want to stay solid over my packed shoulder. I don't want to move, I don't want to drop my chest to the floor. That means I'm moving off that shoulder. My spine is spiraling around my grounded shoulder. I'm not folding at the hip. Getting a nice scoop and then reaching across. Spine kind of stays stacked. After 5, we'll switch back across to the other side. Again, rounded palm, spiraled elbow, open chest. We're going to start with our hip, breath with hip, letting that hip sink down as we fill up that side bowl. Exhale, drawing navel into spine as we scoop. Doing about 2 or 3. And then we're going to add our reach. As you scoop up and forward, we're adding our reach and rotation. Again, like we're trying to reach off into the corner or reaching towards the wall at our side. Again, I don't want to reach where my shoulders rock forward over my hand. I want to keep that back shoulder spiraling over the palm as we reach across. Spine stays a little bit stacked. Inhale, drop that hip all the way down. Exhale, scoop it forward as we reach. Again, trying to get as long as we can from the back of that knee, pressing into the floor all the way out to our fingertips. Notice, how does this side feel compared to the other side? This side of my shin box is significantly tighter through my hip and my low back compared to the other side. We're going to bring it back across. Now we want to get into our folds. I'm going to change our orientation of our folds. I've been doing folds reaching through the shin. Today I'm going to focus more on reaching through the knee. So I want to think of the knee as an arrow. I want to reach, sending the sternum through that knee, and then both hands reaching evenly through that knee. I want to avoid one hand reaching further than the other. And see if both hands reach nice and even on the exhale. Inhale, we're bringing it all the way back up. Exhale, we're seeing if we can reach a little bit further. Nice inhale. On our inhale, we're continuing to fill up our bowl, our crocodile breath, or fill up that balloon. Exhale, drawing navel into spine as we reach. After 5, we're going to shin box back to the other side, doing the same thing. Turn, face that knee, using the knee as the arrow. We're seeing if we can send our sternum square through that knee, and then reaching both hands evenly as we exhale. Inhale, bringing it all the way back up, filling up our bowl, our balloon. Exhale, drawing navel into spine as we reach. Notice, how does it feel on this side that's different from the other side? Do you feel a bigger stretch in the hips? Or do you feel a bigger stretch in the back on one side relative to the other side? Now we're going to start moving back and forth across. So we can either do our windshield wipers moving through the feet. When we're doing the windshield wipers, I want to keep feet in contact with the ground. We don't want to lift and then replace the feet. We want to keep them in contact so that we can really feel that spiraling of the femur in the hip socket. Once we get to one side, using that knee as the arrow, then we're reaching through that knee. Then transitioning across all the way to the other side, and doing the same thing. By going back and forth, we get a little bit better sense of comparison between the left side and the right side. And noticing where the imbalance is and how this movement feels. What feels tight, what feels restricted, what moves, what feels like it's not moving. Keep everything synced to breath. So as we reach, we are exhaling. As we're coming back up, we're inhaling. We can take another breath cycle as we transition so that we're back and ready for a nice exhale as we reach again. As we're going back and forth, we can now start to open up our shin box a little bit. Let that back leg slide open. And continuing to use that knee as the arrow for the time being. As I start to open that knee more and more, my position of my fold might have to change. But I want to try to see how long can I keep that sternum reaching through the knee, both hands evenly reaching through that knee, nice and square. But again, as we open up that shin box, you might find it's a little bit more difficult to keep that square knee, so that is okay. We don't want to force positions that don't feel safe. So if you find that you have to change that angle a little bit, that's fine, especially as we start getting closer to the yoga class pigeon pose. With each one, continuing to slide that back leg a little bit further. And as we're doing so, we're still getting that assessment level. What does it feel like on the right side? How is it different than the left side? What feels balanced and what feels like it's a little bit out of balance? And so a lot of times, just by putting a little bit of focus and attention on areas that feel tight and restricted, you'll find that after 3 to 5 reps, it starts to open up, especially if you're not forceful with it, if you're very gentle with it. The body just kind of will start to give you a little bit more of that range of motion back. Go ahead and finish up this last one and make sure everything feels as balanced as possible. And then we're going to shift to our quadruped position, coming to hands and knees. Spreading fingers out nice and wide, rounding palms, extending the elbows fully. First thing I want to focus on today in quadruped is our feet. So I want to get into our big toe mobility. Tucking the big toe as tight as you can underneath. We're going to inhale as we rock forward. Exhale as we let our hips sink back towards the heels. Want to specifically load into the big toe joint. Inhale, we're bringing that weight forward. Exhale, letting our hips sink. Now, as we're sinking back, I want to kind of keep my tailbone turned up towards the ceiling. I don't want it to scoop as I come back. So I'm kind of intentionally tilting my pelvis towards the floor in order to keep tailbone upright as I'm loading into the big toe joint. And with each one, see if you can feel a little bit more weight of your hips sink to your heels and feel that loaded stretch in the big toe joint and getting into the arch of the foot. I want to be soft with this. With each one, allow a little bit more without being forceful and without it being painful. How does the right big toe feel in relationship to the left big toe? Does it feel tighter? Does it feel more restricted? Is it a little sensitive? Is it sore? Is it painful? As long as it is not painful, with each one, are you able to give a little bit more weight of your hips into it? You get a little bit more stretch into the arch of the foot. Then I want to turn the heels out and away and tuck all the way out to the pinky toe. We're going to do the exact same thing, letting the hips sink back to the heels on our exhale. Inhale, bringing our weight forward. I still want to keep that tailbone turned up towards the ceiling as we rock back. I don't want to get that scoop of the pelvis, or butt wink is another description of it. I want to keep that tailbone turned up. That'll help feel that a little bit extra load into the ball, outside ball of the foot, and outside our arch of the foot. We'll let our ankles go nice and flat to the floor. Continuing to breathe in as we're going forward. Exhale, keep that tailbone turned up as we sink our hips to heels. Seeing how close can you get your hips to the heels. Inhale, we're coming all the way forward back to the wrist. Exhale, sinking hips to heels. Are you able to touch your hips to your heels? Are you able to touch one hip to one heel and not the other? If that's the case, that might indicate some inflammation, some swelling in the knee. Definitely some range of motion differences between one knee and the other, so that can be relevant. As we're sinking back, if you're able to get your hips all the way to the heels, we can start to apply a little more load by letting our hands slide back. Feel that weight, and then bring it all the way back forward to hands. If there is swelling in the knees, this action right here, going back and forth, rocking into our deep sit, back to quadruped, can be helpful as far as helping to flush that fluid through the knees. Although I want to make sure that we're not moving into pain or discomfort. I don't want to add to the inflammation by being forceful. Staying within that nice, soft, level 1, level 2 on a scale of 0 to 10 can help to move that fluid through so that we can get some of the range of motion back in our knee. We're going to come back up to our quadruped. I want to go ahead and tuck the big toes again lightly, just have them tucked underneath. Now we're going to get our work into our wrists. So nice grounded palms. First thing I want to work on is spirals of our elbows. So spiraling the elbow pits so that they face as far forward as they can go. I want to feel that rotation all the way up through the top of the humerus down to the wrist. I'm not allowing the hands to slide around. The hands are really well grounded. I'm just spiraling the long arm bones in between the wrist and the shoulder blades. Seeing how far can you squeeze those elbows, turning them out as far as they can go, and then turning them in as far as they can go. Each direction, See if you can squeeze a little bit further. And as we're doing this, I want to start to notice how that spiraling of the elbows relates to the shoulder blade and what the shoulder blade wants to do. As you spiral the elbows in, notice how the shoulders want to kind of round over the top of the ribs. We can add to that by pushing into the floor a little bit and see if you feel some stretch in between the shoulder blades and the spine. And then as we turn the elbow pits out so that they're facing forward, notice how the shoulder blades want to spiral down and pack down towards the back hip. Want to feel that action in both directions. So internal spiral, feel the shoulder blades spread, feel that nice stretch in between the shoulder blades. And then as you externally spiral, feel the shoulder blades draw down your ribs towards your hips. And see if you feel your chest kind of naturally reach down towards the floor. And you feel that opening of the chest to the floor. Now I want to add to this. Well, actually, I want to fix the arm. So the next external spiral, as you externally spiral the elbow pits so that they're facing forward, I want to maintain that. That's going to keep you in a packed shoulders. So I want to maintain our shoulder position. If you need to come up off the wrist right now to take a little bit of rest, that's fine. Anytime you're feeling that wrist getting tired or fatigued, go ahead and take a rest, then come right back into that quadruped. So again, elbows are spiraled out, shoulders are packed. We're going to maintain this position of our shoulders. We're going to get into our pelvis. So coming back into our breath, we're going to breathe into that belly. Feel that belly open up towards the floor. On the exhale, we're drawing our navel into our spine. Again, keep the elbows turned forward, shoulders are active. On our inhale, as you breathe into the belly, the pelvis is going to tilt down to the floor. As we exhale, drawing our navel into the spine, we're going to start to get a scoop of our pelvis. I want to start to accentuate that movement with our inhale. Open that pelvis up by moving it to the floor. Feel that belly open up. We're going to get a big sway in our back. I want to go as far as we can without any pinch or pain in the low back. And then as we exhale, we're scooping, drawing that navel in. I want to get as much scoop as we can get without pinch or pain in the low back. See if you can feel some stretch in this low back area as you exhale. Inhale, fill that belly up as it moves towards the floor. Exhale, pull that belly button up like you're trying to touch the ceiling as you scoop your tailbone underneath. With each one, we're trying to get a little bit more scoop. The more you scoop, the more you should feel your lower core kind of get a little bit tight and engaged. When we see how much of that active engagement can you get specifically in that lower abdominal region without getting a lot of movement in the upper body. Now we're going to come back and add in our arm spirals. So as the belly moves to the floor, on our inhale, our elbows are turned out and away, facing forward. As we exhale, scoop, we're going to spiral the elbows inward, pressing into the floor, getting rounded in our low back with our scoop and our upper back by pressing down and away. As we inhale, elbows are spiraling forward, chest drops to the floor, pelvis is turning to the floor, belly is opening up, getting a sway in our back. See if you can feel that spiraling of the elbows with the scoop of the pelvis. Again, I want to feel that nice core engagement at this top point. Active scoop, active internal spiral as we press Can you feel your core lighting up on fire? Then inhale, and you feel your lower core stretch as your belly opens up to the floor and the head comes up. You feel your chest dropping to the floor as your shoulder blades pack down and back. Go ahead and come off the wrists. We're going to switch over onto our back. I want to come back into and get a good reestablish our crocodile breath, so we can, with the feet, knees bent, feet flat to the floor, bringing our C-shaped hands in. Our inhale, we're filling up that balloon, pressing out and away. Our exhale, drawing navel into spine. As we're doing that, we're going to lift our feet off the floor, pulling our knees a little bit tight to the chest so that our hips are a little bit less than 90 degrees. Knees can stay at 90 degrees. Then we're going to let our arms come straight out to the side with the palms up. We're still doing our crocodile breath. We're still filling up that balloon on the inhale. On the exhale, drawing the navel into the spine. Then with the upper body, I want to imagine, this is where I like to imagine we're laying in a bed of sand and we're trying to make an imprint of our upper body in that sand. I want to feel it. Shoulders, elbows, forearms, all the way out to the fingertips. We are pressing down actively, and I don't want to smear the sand. I don't want shoulders to move around and slide. I want to keep it all really well fixed. We're inhaling, filling up our crocodile breath. On the exhale, we're letting our hips roll to the side, only going as far as you can without losing your imprint in the sand. Inhale comes back to center. Exhale goes to the other side. Drawing navel in. Inhale, filling up that crocodile breath. Exhale, drawing navel into spine. Go slow on this movement. Make your breath slow so that you can go slow with the mobility of the hips. With each one, we're seeing if we can go a little bit further without losing the imprint in the sand. The more active your shoulders are pressing down, the easier it is going to be to maintain that imprint. If your shoulders get soft, they're going to be moved. So they have to be actively pushing into the floor all the way out to the fingertips. We're trying to ground through the floor our entire upper body. Go ahead and bring the feet back down to the floor. Feet are going to stay grounded. Arms can kind of change position. We don't have to maintain that imprint. We're going to come back into our breath, filling up that abdominal wall. Feel that breath expanding out and away. And then exhale, drawing navel into spine. And we're going to get back into our pelvic tilt. Again, pelvic tilt is really, really important as far as being able to maintain good core, especially core bracing. If we need to get into a plank, we've got to have good core bracing, which requires pelvic mobility. So the ability to scoop, to go anterior and posterior with our pelvic tilt is really, really important for abdominal core bracing. So, on our inhale, we're going to let that belly fill up forward, lifting our low back off the floor. Feel the pelvis tilt forward. This is anterior tilt. As you exhale, drawing that belly down into your spine. Feel that belly press the spine into the floor and scoop the pelvis. I want to scoop without pushing into our feet. I want to feel that scoop being drawn from the belly button. The more that belly pulls, you're naturally going to get into that scoop. And you feel that lower core pulling your pelvis, your tailbone up into posterior tilt. Then we're going to inhale, filling up the belly and allowing the pelvis to go to anterior tilt. How much mobility do you feel within that pelvis? Can you feel your feet wanting to press down and lift your sacrum up in order to get that scoop? Or are you able to scoop from the belly button? If it's difficult, if you're feeling your feet engaged, then this is something that we want to work on to get a little bit better lower core control so that you're not pushing through the feet. The more you're able to scoop from that lower core, you're going to feel a lot more abdominal tension. So you're going to feel that contraction of your lower core. Now on the next one, we're going to start engaging more through the feet. So we're going to do the same breath. Belly opens up to the ceiling. Exhale, drawing navel to spine. And then we're going to peel our tailbone off the floor and feel each vertebrae lift one at a time as we continue to scoop the pelvis, actively turning that tailbone up towards the ceiling, getting as high as we can so you feel a little stretch in the front of the hips. And then we're going to inhale, letting each vertebrae down one at a time so we get back into that full filled up belly position with the spine off the floor. Exhale, draw navel in first, feel that spine press down into the floor, and then we're going to slowly scoop, peeling the tailbone off the floor. With each one, see if you can scoop the tailbone up a little higher. As if we're getting a good scoop, we should be nice and washboard flat from chest through the front of the hips. If you're not getting a good scoop, your rib will end up sticking out and you'll have a bend in your hips. So if you're feeling that rib jutting out, that means you don't have that scoop of the pelvis. Again, this is that core plank position. That elbow, if the pelvis is anteriorly tilted, rib is out, this is not a good plank position. We have a lot of our abdominals are in a stretch in the front, big contraction in the rear. There's not going to be good balance. So having that scoop ability helps that core bracing. That's what we're trying to build and develop, that ability to maintain a good plank, which helps us do other movements like elbow planks, push-ups, pull-ups, fun stuff. Now on the next one, as we get to the top, with that nice scoop, ribs drawn down and in, core active and engaged, we're going to do the same breath pattern from this position, allowing our pelvis to tilt. We're going to inhale, filling up the belly, allowing that pelvis to tilt forward and allowing that rib to jut out. On the exhale, we're drawing our navel in as we scoop and feel that rib draw down. We're maintaining the height of our pelvis. We're staying in a hip bridge. So I want to feel that pelvis move from this position. Exhale, scoop into it. Feel that rib drop. With each one, as you exhale and scoop, you should notice your glutes starting to fire up, getting worked. I want to squeeze into that as much as we can, pressing into our flat feet, scooping our pelvis as much as you can in order to get that solid glute engagement. This movement is really nice as far as feeling that relationship between the pelvic mobility in the rib cage flow. As you notice, pelvis tilts anterior, rib sticks out. Scoop the pelvis, rib draws down. These are things that I want to get a sense and feel in the body, because it's going to, the more you can sense and feel it, the better it's going to be at maintaining it when we get into other positions. All right, we'll go ahead and let the hips come back down to the floor. And we're going to shift into an inverted position, or reverse sit. Hands are grounding next to the hips. We're going to come back and look at our spiraling elbows, similar to what we did when we were in quadruped. So allowing the elbows to turn internally, facing in towards the body. Notice how that naturally draws the shoulder blades forward. As we externally spiral the elbows, notice how that draws the shoulder blades back and down a little bit. So I want to work with that. We're going to let that spiral internal so that the shoulders come up, feel and move up towards the ears. See if you can feel a stretch up into the upper back. As we externally spiral, press down into the floor. Feel your sternum lift up tall towards the ceiling. And you feel that stretch across the front of the chest. Exhale as you spiral internally, shoulders moving up towards the ears. Inhale as you spiral externally, shoulder blades packing down and back. With each one, see if you can get more pressed down with that spiral. Can you feel your shoulders moving down your ribs? And can you feel your chest moving up towards the ceiling? Can you get more stretch through the front of the chest? Now we're going to add in our pelvis again. As we exhale, we're scooping the pelvis. As the shoulders move up towards the ears, we're now getting rounded in our upper back and our lower back. Inhale, pelvis moves forward as we spiral elbows out. Can you feel a nice stretch, low back into upper back as you exhale? Can you feel that continuous stretch through the shoulders all the way down? As you inhale, spiraling elbows out, can you feel the shoulder blades press down towards the floor as your chest opens up, and you get a nice stretch through the chest? A nice next inhale. As you exhale, pressing and lifting, we're going to stay elbows spiraled out, pressing down. I want to maintain this shoulder position. At this point, we can kind of cross our legs if that's more comfortable, but we're actively pressed, actively spiral. Nice open chest. I want to be nice and tall in our spine. We're going to do a little bit of neck mobility before we get into our more core focused work. So we'll start by checking our blind spots. Slowly looking over the right shoulder. I want to squeeze the chin. See how far can you move the end of your chin over the edge of your shoulder. Can you turn, getting past the outside ridge of the shoulder with that chin. We're going to inhale as we come to center. Exhale as we go to the other side. How does this feel when you're looking to the right compared to looking to the left? Do you have better range of motion on one side? Does one side feel tight and restricted compared to the other? Next, we'll come back to center. We're going to get into our side tilt. So you're going to lightly let your head tilt ear to one shoulder, and then actively lift the opposite ear like you're trying to lift and touch the ceiling. As you lift that ear, actively engage that same side palm pressing down into the floor. Again, elbows are spiraling out and away. Inhales, head comes to center. Exhales, we tilt and lift. Again, how does this feel on the left side compared to the right side? My right side feels a lot tighter. My left side feels super mobile, not a whole lot of restriction. My right side is where I tend to get a lot of chronic tightness and restriction. A lot of it related to arrhythmia, also related to my knee. And last for the neck, we'll get into some shallow neck rolls. So I want to stay shallow with this to start with. We can go deeper with each one, making sure that it is not painful. Dropping chin to chest. We're going to slowly let our left ear roll to the left shoulder, and let our gaze move up to the ceiling, right ear to the right shoulder, and then chin back down to chest. We'll continue with that motion. I've given you 4 points, which makes a square. As we go through it, we're going to slowly try to smooth the edges of that square out to make it more of a circle. I want to make sure that we're not moving into pain. I also want to keep the shoulder blades actively spiraled out, or elbows spiraled out, shoulders are down. I want to avoid shoulders wanting to creep up to the ears as we're moving through this. That may restrict your range of motion. So keep those shoulder blades down pressed. If it feels uncomfortable, keep your range shallow so that it is not painful. After about 5 in one direction, we're going to reverse directions. Starting chin to chest, right ear to right shoulder, gaze to the ceiling, left ear to the left shoulder, chin back down to chest. Just like we did on the other side, we're going to slowly take those 4 points that create a square, smooth them out, and make it more of a circle. Again, I don't want to move into discomfort, especially if you're feeling that shoulder wanting to draw up and protect. Keep the shoulder pressed down, spiraled out, and keep the range of motion small so that it is not painful. I don't want to get a pain level above 2 when working my neck mobility on a scale of 0 to 10. I want to keep it low. Level 1, level 2 is slight discomfort. It's basically like the discomfort of a stretch. It's not fully registering as pain. I don't want it to get above that with the neck. All right. Now we're going to come back down to our back. Laying on our back, legs are going to go be straight. We can have a little bit of a flex in the knees. The knees can be a little bit bent. I want to pull the feet so that they're pointing up towards the ceiling. I don't want them resting down or turning out. So feet are staying face up. Top of your knees should be facing up towards the ceiling. From here, we're going to do some pelvic tilts again, and then we're going to turn this into a bridge. So on our inhale, filling up the belly, feel the pelvis tilt up towards the ceiling now. Low back should come off the floor. Exhale, drawing navel to spine, scoop the pelvis, feel the belly button press the low back into the floor. Again, keep those toes pulled, the tops of the feet are really being pulled towards the top, towards the shins. Inhale, pelvis tilts forward. Exhale, drawing navel into spine. We can get back and kind of notice this relationship between the pelvis and the rib cage. As the pelvis tilts forward, your rib will naturally flare out as we get the sway in the back. As we exhale, drawing navel into the spine, you should feel that rib draw down towards the pelvis, right? We're getting this nice flat core right here, not having that rib sticking out. Now that we have that breath associated, we're now going to add in a bridge. I want arms pointing up to the ceiling. Let the shoulder blades reach off the floor as high as they can go. And then you're going to feel your shoulder blades spread out and ground onto the floor. Like we're trying to create an imprint of just our shoulder blades. Arms are going to stay up. On our inhale, we're filling up that belly, spine lifts off the floor. On the exhale, as we scoop, we're going to press into our heels and lift our hips off the floor so that all we're on is our shoulders and our heels. As you scoop on your exhale, your inhale, you're going to let your hips back down, fill up the belly, pelvis tilts forward. Exhale, navel to spine, scoop as you lift. Again, I want to feel that action of the pelvis. As you inhale, pelvis tilts forward, rib tilts. As you exhale, pelvis scoops, rib drops. Feel that bracing through the core. Keeping those hands up, shoulders spread. Good. After 5 to 10 reps, we're going to roll over onto our belly. So from our belly, hands are going out to the side, starting with the palms down. Then we're going to spiral, drawing our elbows into our sides, palms are up. I want to feel the inside bony prominence of our elbow touching the outside edge of the ribs. I'm not bringing my arms all the way underneath my chest. Chest remains on the floor. So as I pull my elbows in, I'm not lifting my chest up. I'm just pulling my arms into the side. Palms are facing up. From here, we're going to tuck the toes, and I want to come back into our breath. Breathing into the belly. Fill that belly up. Feel the pelvis tilt down to the floor now, getting a sway in our low back. On the exhale, as you draw navel into the floor, into the spine, navel into the spine, we're scooping our pelvis. Feeling that lower abdominal core engagement on the exhale. Inhale, allow that pelvis to tilt. Exhale, feel that pelvis scoop. Now, on our next exhale, we're going to do the same level of bridge that we did on the previous side. I'm not going to extend and press out the shoulders. My shoulders are going to stay tight to the body. My toes are tucked. The big thing that's going to happen, well, let's start with this. So, toes are tucked. Go ahead and actively reach the knees up towards the ceiling. Lift the knees so that they're not touching the floor. Let's actually get a few more breaths. I needed to cue that in first. So, knees are off the floor. Inhale into the belly, letting the pelvis tilt down. Exhale, drawing navel in and scoop. With the knees actively lifting to the ceiling. As you scoop on your exhale, you should notice your glutes tighten up a little bit naturally. Inhale, feel that belly up, pelvis tilts down. Exhale, navel to spine, scoop. On the next exhale, is where we're going to do the same thing we did on our back. So as you inhale, belly moves to the floor, pelvis tilts down. As you exhale, you're going to lift hips and chest off the floor, but you're remaining shoulders in contact with your forearms. As you inhale, allow your hips to drop back down to the floor as your belly opens up, pelvis tilts forward. Exhale, navel to spine, scoop and lift. This is a very low bridge. I'm on my forearms and my toes as I exhale. Inhale, bring my belly and my hips to the floor. I want to keep the knees actively lifting throughout. Even though we're not pressing off the floor, this should feel challenging to the core. Then after 5 to 10, we are going to roll into our side. So let me kind of walk through this side body roll real quick. So I am here with my elbows tight, palms are up. As I roll to one side, that elbow stays forward of my ribs. It's not going to be underneath my ribs. But it's still inside bony prominence is still touching the side, a little bit side front of the ribs, outside edge of the shoulders on the floor. So I'm laying on side shoulder, opposite shoulders stacked on top. Top foot is forward, bottom foot is back. We're going to do the same breath. Breathing into the belly, feel the pelvis tilt forward, rib sticks out. Exhale, drawing navel in, scooping the pelvis. We're going to get a few breaths in this position. And then we're going to do our same type of bridge. Except this time we're pressing through the sides of our feet and pressing into the side of the shoulder. So as you inhale, fill up that belly, pelvis tilts forward. Exhale, scoop. And see if you can lift hips off the floor. Only thing I want touching are feet and shoulders with the arm. Inhale, allow the hips to drop back to the floor. Exhale, scoop and lift. That lift is just happening with that breath, with that scoop. As you inhale, pelvis tilts forward, rib flares out. Exhale, scoop, feel the rib drop as you lift off the floor. Then after 5 to 10, we'll switch back to the other side. Again, elbows into that side body space, not directly into the side, a little bit to the forward of the ribs. This gives you a little bit more shoulder onto the floor, and even your side of your body can be on the floor. Front foot, top foot is front, bottom foot is back. Taking some breaths, filling up that belly. Exhale, drawing navel into spine. Get the breath organized before we do our lift. Feel that belly, that rib cage stick out on the inhale. Exhale, scoop, rib draws in. And on the next one, we're going to lift on our exhale. Nice breath in, draw that navel in, and lift the hips off the floor. When we inhale, bringing the hips back down. You'll notice that even though this is a very small movement, super subtle movement, it's probably somewhat challenging, especially to organize the breath with everything else. There's a lot of bracing going on, even though we're barely lifting up off the floor. After about 5 to 10, you can come back to your back. And we're going to re-establish our big C-shaped hands, placing them over the lower core and that soft meaty space of the abdominal wall, below the ribs and above the hip bone. Bringing back into our crocodile breath. Now those positions that we just worked on with our primal core can be strung together into a core. I'm going to show that real quick, but I'm not going to go through it. I want you to continue to work on filling up that crocodile breath. But from that back position, with our inhale, exhale, scoop as I lift, if I can maintain that height of the spine, I can draw my elbow in as I pull into side body. And in that same side body space, I can then thread through my leg, I can roll into front, and I can roll into the opposite side. And I can just continue to move all the way through and then go back. And the ability to get through this movement is, if you can do it, and you can do it well, is a phenomenal core bracing exercise. Again, it's subtle, it's small, it's difficult and challenging, but it's incredibly powerful with the body. Working through the progressions we worked on today will help build us up to being able to do that. So this is a good practice to work on pretty much daily for a while until you get to that next level that we can start to string it together. As we're getting into our crocodile breath, kind of reassess, how does that belly expand out to the sides on each side? Is one side, where it felt tight and restricted at the beginning of the session, do you feel like you have a little bit more access to breath? Are you bringing a little bit more inhale into that space? Are you able to exhale more fully? Does your breath feel a little bit more synced up, and a little smoother? And when you're ready, you'll slowly get up and check back in with the body.